Okay, well, we are on air, and I got like a lot of feedback about last episode. Apparently, I was smacking loudly with a cough drop, and it was really annoying to the mic. And I caught it when we were editing, and it really annoyed me too. So, sorry if you caught that, but those Ricola Liquid Center cough drops are really nice. But I'm here with my grandpa, Wes Atwood, today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, Jack.
My grandpa, he's retired now, but he had a very long and good career in a lot of different industries, and I thought it'd be interesting to have him on the podcast with all the experience he's had with the Dale Carnegie course, and if you've ever heard about that, and real estate and investing. And he had his own oil field company. So we'll get into the interview in a few seconds after this. So, Grandpa, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your early life and what was your main interest growing up about going into business and entrepreneurship?
Sure, Jack. Well, first I want to say it's an honor to be on your show here, on your podcast, and I think it's great what you've done. I've listened to a few of them, and they all sounded really great. Well, when I was a kid, because we didn't have a whole lot, and I was too young to get a job. I was about the first job I had, I was 8 years old, and I got a job selling donuts door to door to business people on South Staples Street in Corpus Christi.
Huh.
And so I would go door to door, and I had that one of those boxes that you hang around your neck. You got a string on it, and it was really profitable. I mean, I sold them for 6 cents. I kept a penny and gave a nickel back to the owner of the donut shop. So that kept money in my pocket. I'd make about 35 or 40 cents a day doing that, and after school. But I remember I went one time, and it was very strong in my memory, was applying for a job at Phillips 66 station, where my dad traded with them for his gas all the time and any work he had to do on his cars. And so I went in there and asked for a job, and I knew the manager. They aired up my bicycle tire all the time. And he was real nice, but he said he just couldn't hire me because I was too young. And that just broke my heart. I thought, what can I do? I went home, told my mom, I said, what can I do? Nobody will hire me because I'm too young. And she said, well, wait a few years. You'll be old enough. But I didn't want to wait a few years. So I started thinking about ways that how could I make $1? It got me into that mode of thinking when I was very young. And it became a habit later on when I got older and grew up. And even when I had jobs, and I've had some good jobs, but as I had those jobs, I would think about what else could I do, and so it's just a way of thinking that I got into the habit of doing later on, and I always thought outside the box. What can I do to make a living or make a few dollars or get ahead? So I guess you could boil it down and say I had a vision when I was a kid, and that's what got me interested in business later on in life.
Yeah.
I had a vision, and if we don't have a vision, the Bible says, God's people perish if they don't have a vision. So I knew that, and so that's how I got started.
So did you have like a certain mentor or someone that really influenced you in your early business ventures, I guess?
I did. Yeah, I did. And that was my dad, because every time he did something, he always had me helping him and working with him. He was working on a car. He'd have me out there helping him and handing him tools. And I just learned a lot that way. But the main thing I learned about him is not to give up, because in my mind, he could do anything. There was not anything he couldn't make or he couldn't do. And I'd just watch him and I'd be amazed. And I'd think, wow, how are we going to overcome this? Well, he would find a way to get the job done. And you remember those old spray guns that you spray your house with you probably don't remember that, but you had a pump on the end of it, and you'd push it back and forth, and it'd spray insecticide out and kill the mosquitoes.
I think so, yeah.
I had a bicycle, and we were trying to paint it and make it look nice, and so he put paint in that thing, rigged it up to spray paint my bike, and so that's the way we did that. And
nice.
Building a go-kart, he was able to do that, and he put a steering wheel on it where I could steer it. I didn't have to just steer it with my feet. You remember you and I, we made one time. You steered it with your feet, a rope. Well, this one had a steering wheel on it. And all the kids in the neighborhood loved it. But that's just the way he was. And he instilled that with me in my in my heart, that don't give up. You can do anything. There's nothing you can't do.
When you were a kid and when you were that age doing all of those things with your dad and going into business stuff like that, what exactly did you want to be when you grew up at that time? Just like a businessman in general, or did you have some sort of career in mind?
Yeah, I think it was in general, Jack. I didn't have anything special that I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be able to speak in front of people. We can get into that later when we talk about Dale Carnegie. But, I just, at that time when I was young, I just wanted to do something that I could make a few dollars and buy my school clothes or my shoes or whatever, and that's just the way it was. And no. If I didn't make the money and buy them, I didn't have them. So I knew what I had to do, and I did it. Whether I sold, I've been selling all my life. So I sold Christmas seeds, I sold flowers, I sold Christmas cards, and I sold coupons so people could go to get their pictures with their families taken. And so that's just the way my life was. I didn't know any different. I thought that was supposed to be, it felt natural. So I enjoyed doing it too.
So what was your first thing you did when you got out of college or high school? What was the main thing that you did relating to your career or business?
The first thing I did when I got out of high school, I was working for a tool company in the oil field, and I was working. We built heat exchangers, and it was pretty hard work. And I worked a lot of hours, and but I got paid good. I thought I did at the time. And I worked a lot of overtime. But yeah, that's what I did then, and went straight to the oil field.
So working with that company really fueled your vision for Atwood Oil Field?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, from there, I went into. I eventually went into business for myself, and I spent 10 years with PPG Industries in Corpus. But so they had to close the plant because of environmental issues. And so I just went out on my own with the oil field and started working. And mostly I worked for people that I knew, that connections I had, and we began to, the company grew, and it was a small company, but for me, it was a large company. I had about 50 employees, and we did construction work all around South Texas in the oil field, pipeline work, uh, and working in refineries wherever they needed help, building locations.
So, when you did your oil field company after you got out of that tool business, did you like directly found Apple? I mean, not Apple, Atwood Oil Field.
Yeah, I did. I started in a small way, and actually, I was welding at the time, and so uh, I grew that business, and I would go out and work on locations. Well, they'd want me to do something else, so I'd have to hire a couple of people to help me, and we would go out. We'd all pile in my truck. I didn't have a super cab. It was just a single cab. There'd be 4 or 5 of us in the front seat. We were packed in there like sardines, and we'd go out and paint tank batteries and hook up tanks and equipment, and whatever we need to do. And then I finally was able to buy an old crew truck from another company. They retired it, and it was a tired truck. I remember we worked half the night one night getting the engine rebuilt and put it back in, and had it running the next morning in time to go out on a job. But that's the way we started, and then the company grew, and I was able to get backhoes and a couple of maintainers and bulldozers and haul trucks, and I had, by the time a couple of years, I had 5 crews working in different locations in the oil field.
So,
yeah.
Over that amount of time, how big did your company grow to be? And when you sold it, how big was it then?
It was, like I said, it's about 50 employees. And it was, actually, I didn't sell out at the time. I just sold all the equipment that I had, and the crew trucks and tools. And the oil field had gone to, it was on a downturn. And that's when I went into the Dale Carnegie business, and I did that because like I said, I wanted to increase my communication skills, public speaking, and so that's why I went into Dale Carnegie business, and I actually started selling for them because that was my background. And I remember I took a man out to eat one time, and I did a lot of work for him, and he was with a radio, and they did a lot of advertising in Coastal Bend. And I said, well, Ralph, I said, let's just go out and have dinner. We're not going to be trying to sell you anything. He said, well, Wes, you're always trying to sell something. I know you are, because that's what you do. So he was right. That was what I did. And so with Dale Carnegie, I started selling, and did quite well. God blessed it. Then they wanted me to be manager of the area, and I did that. I had to do a lot of training before I was qualified. I had to be trained to be a trainer, and there wasn't just the Dale Carnegie course. It was in public speaking and sales and leadership training for managers, and so I did that. And then the owner of that franchise at that time that I was working for, he decided he wanted to get out of the business, and I bought it from him. And that's how I got in the business of Dale Carnegie training of South Texas.
So you pretty much, I mean, Atwood Oilfield pretty much went out of business, and then you went directly into Dale Carnegie.
Right, yeah. Actually, the oil field had taken a drop, and like the oil field does, it picks up and it slows down. People say, well, it'll never slow down again. Well, it does. That's just the way it does. And so it's one of those slow times. So I just sold everything I had and got out of that business and jumped into Dale Carnegie full feet. Both
So
feet.
before you even started teaching or bought the franchise of Dale Carnegie, and you were just taking the course, what were some of the main things that learned that almost kind of like surprised you about communication stuff and social skills?
Yeah. Well, sure. I had read the Dale Carnegie book years before, and it really influenced my life. And this was the book that's most influenced me is the Bible. But then when I read the Dale Carnegie course, it influenced me and taught me a lot about a lot of people's skills, dealing with people, like show people that you're genuinely interested in them. And when we're selling, most salespeople, they think that they go in and they sit down with someone, they think they're supposed to regurgitate everything they know, but really they should say very little. They should ask questions and find out what the need is, and then address that, and show them that they can be a help or service to them. And that's good salesmanship. And so I learned that. I learned to be interested in other people. I learned to try honestly to see what the other person's need is, see what they need, and try to fulfill that mission. I learned it's very important to be honest with people, to let them know that you're gonna make the best decision for them. And sometimes, go ahead. Sorry.
So what was the biggest kind of transformations that you saw in people when they went through Dale Carnegie? Was there like some big thing that you saw change when they eventually finished the course?
I guess I saw, and this is really exciting to me, and I saw people come in to take the course and they didn't have any confidence in themselves or their abilities, but they grew and they began to have self-confidence, and they could stand up and speak to a group of people. They went back to their business, and they all, every single one of them, when I go back and see them later, they'd always moved up in their career. They had a promotion. They were just better leaders. They had confidence in themselves and their own abilities. And so that gave them courage. And that was really an encouragement to see that I could make a difference in people's lives.
If you could sum up all of the Dale Carnegie teaching in one thing, if you can, what would be the main thing that you need to acknowledge or know about the industry there and social skills and communicating with people?
Okay, sure, Jack. Well, I think remember to be honest with people, and you're building a reputation. Someone said this, and I don't remember who it was, but you are the image. When you present your company to other people, your company, you're the image of your company. How you conduct yourself, how you conduct business, how you communicate. That's the image of your company. So remember that. And then another thing to remember is don't compare yourself to other people or other companies, and be yourself. And just do the best you can. And what else were there? That's what General MacArthur, one of my favorite sayings, is do the best you can, and what else is there? And that's what you have to do. You also have to be willing to stay late and come in early, because building a business, you put your heart into it. and do what you want to do. Do what you enjoy the most. And if you do that, you'll be successful. And I must say, you have to have a vision too. Have a vision where you want to be at a certain time, and keep that in front of you. Write it down on a piece of paper, put it on the wall, keep it in front all the time, and you internalize that, and inadvertently you're going to make it happen. If you have that vision in front of you, you're always working on it. And but if you don't have a vision, that's going to be a barrier to your success every time.
Mm-hmm. Well, what would you say are key traits in good business people and leaders that everyone like that has in common? Almost habits.
So, as a leader, if you make a mistake, admit it. Admit it quickly and emphatically. Don't let it ride. Don't think you fool your employees. You don't. They know you, and they know when you're right, when you're wrong. So when you're wrong, admit it quickly. If you need to make an apology, do it, and take care of it. Don't sleep on problems. Take care of them when they come up. Take care of them that day if you can, if all possible. And it'll help you. And one of the greatest reasons for people being sick today is in the hospital is because of stress, and stress is caused from not taking care of issues that come up, and keeping that pinned up inside, and you go days and days, and you don't deal with it. Maybe an issue with an employee or something, and so take care of those things right away. Be honest, and have a vision. That's very important. You have to have a vision, and then treat other people like you want to be treated. That's so important.
So, if you're willing to talk about it, what do you think were the biggest setbacks or failures in your career, and what did you learn from them?
Well, the biggest failure wasn't a failure. I just learned from it. Setback was getting sidetracked, having a vision, getting sidetracked, and it delayed the vision coming to fruition. So I think that's was the biggest problem, getting not staying focused like I should have. And once I refocused, and that happens to everyone, I think, at some time or another, you lose your focus, and it really causes you to get off track. Maybe you think you're doing something else that you think you should, but do what you know to do. Do what you're good at, your business. Stay in your lane, and keep on doing what you know is right, and you'll be successful if you could. And I was, if you're thinking about as when we close this out, and thinking about what you could do if you sit down. If I sat down with myself and I just said, "Self, what would you say to yourself if I was starting a business and it was 40 or 50 years ago?" Well, I'd say nothing is impossible. If it's good and it's right and it's God's will, you can do it. Okay. So you've got that confidence in yourself and your own abilities, and enthusiasm is the key. And the key to be enthused is to act like it. Act enthused. If you act enthused, you'll be enthused. Okay. And then another thing is be willing to take a chance. Life is a chance. All of life is, but the ones that go the furthest are the ones that are willing to do and to dare, step out, get out of your comfort zone. You know, I remember Dale Carnegie said one time in the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, he said, the sure boat never gets far from shore. And that's true. So we have to be willing to take a chance. And the difficult times are going to come. There are going to be times when you think, well, this is just too much. I'm not going to recover. But a great philosopher, Albert Hubbard, he was on board the Lusitania in World War II when it was sunk by a German submarine. It torpedoed it. He said, as the tide goes out, surely it will come back in. So, and that's so true. Tide goes out, the tide rolls back in, and that's the way life is. So just do your best, and what else is there?
So when did you go into real estate and investing?
I was in real estate for a short time, and it was really when I first started with Dale Carnegie. And so I did sold real estate, and I finally had to give that up because it was taking all my time, and I couldn't stay focused on Dale Carnegie and real estate too. So I had to make a choice. So I did, and I'm glad I did, and I got out of the real estate business. So I didn't do that very long. It was a part-time gig. Well, one thing I can say, it was a really important part of my life and my business was God was in it, and He was the center of it. And so without Him, I knew I couldn't do anything. And so I prayed every day. That's the first thing I did when I woke up in the morning, had my prayer time. And because I know that Jesus He's the answer to every problem we might have. And if we remember that, we won't go wrong. And He'll show us where we need to get back on track and do what's right. And He said He would bless us if we're faithful to Him. I believe that too. He said He'd give us the desires of our heart. I believe that. I know that if I'm doing what's right and I'm living for Him, and no matter what I'm doing, the Bible says we work as we're working for God. And so in my business, that's what I always try to do, is feel like I'm doing this for God, for the Lord, and He'll bless you for doing that. So my desires would be aligned with His. One of the things that when I look back in my career that I'm proud of is that I was able to help people be leaders. And like I mentioned that, when I go back and see people that I worked with, they always had moved up in their careers. They had promotions, or they had their own companies. They weren't afraid to step out and take a chance and do something. And that was real rewarding to me. It wasn't about money. It was about contentment, peace, God's will, about happiness. And I always told people, I said, if you don't like what you're doing, do everyone a favor and get out of that business and do something else. Do something that you like to do, something you enjoy. It shouldn't be just about money.
What would be a piece of advice that you'd give to any young person who's interested in business, or just business people in general, that you think people should know?
Yeah, okay. Well, again, if I've met people and go into office, and I can tell when people, when there's a lot of discontent in the business, or people are oppressed, or they keep their head down. They don't speak to you. They're not open with their customers, and so you can tell they hate their jobs. their attitude shows. Their bad attitude, it really shows it, and the whole company looks that way. So when people see you, if you're working for a company, they see you, they see the whole company. So to be successful, we have to help our people and train them. You say, well, I can't afford to train my people. Well, you can't afford not to. What if you don't train them? And they stay with you. They say, well, I'll train them, they'll leave. Well, what if you don't train them? They stay with you. So you have to train your people. As leaders, we have to train them. It's a part of growing a company and a business.
Okay, well, I just have one more question, and then
okay,
we'll be done. But if you could say anything to your younger self, or when you first started your career, is there anything that you would tell yourself to do differently, or anything you would have changed?
Yeah, there is. It's to be more enthused about what we do. Nobody's going to look at you and say you have too much enthusiasm. They're going to look at you and say you don't have any enthusiasm. You're not very enthused about your work or your job. And people see that. So enthusiasm is so important because you see it's contagious. If I'm around you, you're real enthused, Jack, I start being enthused. And I get excited too. So if you notice, when you get around people who are excited, all of a sudden you get excited and you get enthused. So if there's anything I'd say, I could just be more enthused about what I'm doing, about my career. And I was enthused, very much so. And I know that's why I was successful in it. But I think I could have been more enthused in a lot of ways. So that's the number one thing, I think, yeah.
Okay, well, it was great having you today, Grandpa. Well, make sure to check out the Patreon page if you haven't. You can get exclusive content there. I left a lot of stuff on there last week when we released the episode with Oliver. Also, go and leave a review, leave a rating on the podcast. And again, email in at thejackatwoodpodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear from you and respond if I can. Thanks for being on the podcast, Grandpa. It was great having you.
Oh, it was great being here, I promise you. I'm so glad you're doing this. You're doing a great service to the community, to the whole world. Yeah, I know it's going to grow and you're going to be very successful.
Yeah, shout out to our listeners in Germany and Russia. If you're still listening, hopefully we'll have you on again sometime, Grandpa, and as well as Oliver. I guess we'll see you on the other side.